You look, act, and speak for the job you want, not the one you have. And as we are getting back and more people are going to the office, one of the exercises I have, you get in the elevator on the second floor and someone important, like the president or maybe one of the board of directors, but some important person in your organization, they don't know you. And you're going to the 14th floor. So you are from the second to the 14th floor to say something that they're going to remember. What do you say? I recommend you say, "Excuse me, I have the privilege of working with your 6-person dedicated payroll team. And we all talked about how impressive your remarks were at the all hands meeting."
Welcome to the Mindset Game podcast. It is such an honor to have Patricia Fripp here with us today. Patricia is a Hall of Fame keynote speaker, an award-winning speechwriter, executive speech coach, and sales presentation skills expert. She was the first woman elected president of the National Speakers Association and the co-author of Deliver Unforgettable Presentations. Companies such as Microsoft, Visa, Genentech, Palo Alto Networks hire Fripp to help executives, engineers, and sales teams improve the impact of their communications. Through her popular online learning platform, Fripp VT, Powerful Persuasive Presentations, she helps professionals of all levels become clear, become confident, and compelling communicators. Patricia, it is such an honor. As I mentioned to you before we clicked record, as you know, many professionals, many people have this belief that their good work, right, should speak for itself, right? They work hard, they get good results, and they tend to be humble about advocating for themselves, communicating, promoting their value. So they don't actively sell themselves. Some feel very uncomfortable to do so. So what I thought is for us to focus on today, if you'd be willing to, is really about what you call shameless self-promotion. And that's something that I think can serve us all really well in a very competitive marketplace where we need to help others recognize and see what we can do. So take us to the beginning. You have such an incredible story. Take us to the beginning of when you first realized that you had to be a shameless self-promoter.
Well, by taking us back to the very beginning, my first business mentor was obviously my father. And he had an interesting mindset, although I seriously doubt if anyone would have thought of it as a mindset. My dad was born with polio. He had polio in his mother's womb. So consequently, in World War II, he couldn't go in the service. And as a young man, he was very, very smart. But at 14, his dad said, you have to leave school and help support your brothers and sisters, which is a terrible action to take with a smart kid. But my father always knew, and he educated himself, went to night school. He always knew, I have to work in the boss's office. I have to learn about business. My future, his mindset was as a business person. And when he was a 22-year-old office boy for Mr. Welsh and Mr. Locke, they were in the real estate business. And I'm sure they were nice men, but they knew nothing about social styles and everything we learn now. They hated each other. And he said they were having a knockdown, drag-out fight, saying, look, we can't work together. We hate each other, yet the business is in debt. So whoever takes over the business has to assume the debt. And my father said, I do not know where the words came from, but out of my mouth I heard this voice say, I will take over your business and assume your debt. Well, they took off. So this 22-year-old office boy went to all the people they owed money to and said, I am a young man with very little experience. However, please be patient with me. I'll pay you back. And he went on to be an outrageously successful local businessman in our area. When I was 15, I went to work to serve a 3-year apprenticeship to be a ladies' hairstylist. Because I knew at 12, my brother's brilliant, and he is. I'm not as smart as my brother. I'm probably not as smart as the kids at school. I think I'm more artistic than academic. I'm going to be a hairstylist, which I was. And the first day I went to work, my father gave me great advice that served me well, and it will serve you and all your listeners. He said, in your career, don't concentrate on making a lot of money. Rather concentrate on becoming the type of person people want to do business with. And you most likely will make a lot of money. So the first lesson for all of us, we have to have the mindset that whatever our profession is, we are there in service of our customers and clients. And as I was a hairstylist, and I learned from my parents, hard work. And probably because I didn't think I was smart as the other kids at school, I never missed school. I received 100% certificates, 100% attendance certificates for years. I never won anything else, but they knew I turned up. So the second mindset is you do not have to be the best. You do not have to be the smartest. But you do have to work harder and be consistent. And my first boss, Mr. Paul, he was Swiss and sophisticated and very charming. And I saw him treat every woman who came in our salon like the only one in the world for the time she was there. Now, it was a young woman who observed. I saw that Mr. Paul treated the woman who was the waitress in the Carlton Hotel, which was a very posh 5-star hotel. And Bournemouth was a holiday resort, so not only did rich people live there, it was the place for well-off holiday makers. I saw Mr. Paul treat the waitresses in the Carlton as well as he treated the rich little ladies who lived in the Carlton Hotel. Now, long before I came up with the phrase shameless self-promoter, I realized what he was doing. He treated everyone the same, no matter what their income. But what I also came to realize is a waitress in this very posh hotel full of rich residents and holiday makers had a sphere of influence a lot greater than the rich little ladies who played bridge with the same 6 friends all the time. So you see, I started observing. Now, again, one, be the type of person people want to do business with. You have to be consistent. You don't have to be the best, but you have to be consistent. And everybody is of value to you. They might not have the money, but let's face it, if you are serving 100 or more people who are on vacation, oh my dear, your hair looks lovely. Where should I have my hair done while I'm here? Fast forward. I finished my apprenticeship and went to live on an island off France called Jersey. It was British, but closer to France, and it was a tax haven. So we didn't pay income tax. Yay. And I just finished my apprenticeship, so I'm 18 years old, and I was working with gentlemen from the West End of London who did hairstyles I'd never even seen before. but they thought lunch hours were for eating lunch. What a stupid concept. I knew lunch hours were for squeezing in 4 extra clients who could only come at lunch. Because if you're rich, if you're on vacation, you will choose an appointment based on what's offered to you. However, if you work in the bank or the newspaper shop or a local store, you went to lunch when your boss told you. And one day my boss said, Patricia, you bring in 30% more income to the salon than Otmar and Leon, whose base pay, by the way, was at least 3 times mine because they were more experienced. So 4 clients a day, 5 days a week, while other people are eating lunch and you're just grabbing a sandwich when you go get a towel, means you earn 30% more income for the salon. And we got a base salary and a percentage. And then, based with all this just observation of living, I moved to America at 20 with no job, nowhere to live, didn't know anyone, had $500, and I knew everyone in America was rich and the streets were paved with movie stars. And my first job was working at the Mark Hopkins Hotel, which is a great place if you don't know anyone, because there are holiday makers, the people staying in the hotel, so I could make a living. And I discovered hairdressers in America made 50% commission. No sick pay, no guarantee, no vacation, 50% commission. And my boss had never seen anyone who worked like me. He said, go back to England, bring over 28 your friends, I'll become a multimillionaire. I said, Charles, I never worked with anyone like me. They're going to lunch. I don't go to lunch. Yeah. So I did quite well there. Then, and this is where our real story about Shameless comes in. When I was 23, so I went in to what was the first really posh, fancy men's hairstyling salon when nobody else was talking about men's hairstyling. A gentleman called Jay Sebring. He was the Hollywood hairstylist. He did Paul Newman and Steve McQueen and Peter Lawford. Anyone who was anyone in Hollywood, Jay Sebring did their hair. And the owner of the salon where I was working was really in PR. He wasn't a hairstylist. And he read in Playboy magazine that Jay Sebring was going to open a store in San Francisco, salon. And he said, you don't want to open your own, you want mine. So again, luck of the draw, I find myself working for Jay Sebring, the Hollywood hairstylist. And Jay, he was quoted in Playboy, Time Magazine, Newsweek, all these magazines when nobody else was talking about men's hairstyling. And, he trained us and his methods. And Herb Caen was our local popular columnist. And you might not have read anything in the paper, but everybody read Herb Caen. And Jay Sebring said, as soon as Herb Caen writes that I've taken over this salon, the phone will ring off the hook. And it did. And that at 23 years old was when I realized it doesn't matter how good I am. The world has to know about it. And I saw, because this was long before the internet and websites, I saw that Jay Sebring said, we only have one gimmick, the best haircut in town. But it wasn't what he said. It was who he said it to. Herb Caen, Time Magazine, Newsweek, Playboy, everybody else. And that's when it hit me. Now, you are far too young to know, as I am sure many of your listeners are far too young to know, that there was a tragedy and Jay Sebring was murdered with Sharon Tate by the Manson family. Now, again, not to go a downer, but my best friend Frankie, who worked in the next booth, said to me, now Jay has died, you will become the star of the salon. Another point, often other people see your potential long before you do. So by now, I knew you have to be the type of person people want to do business with. You have to work harder than everybody else. And you need people to know what you were doing, where you were doing it, and how good you are. And so that was when I started being interviewed by anything about hairstyling. The radio and TV stations came to me. I was written up in all the local newspapers. So again, I was thinking about press. And again, nobody had to teach me, Vered. Nobody had to teach me. When you do somebody's hair, you give them 3 business cards. And I said, 1 is for you, and 2 are for the next 2 people who tell you, wow, your hair looks good. Now, let's freeze frame for a moment. What do most people do? And most people say, oh, Fripp, will you recommend me? And this is the question I ask. If I tripped over a perfect prospect for you, what would they look like? So you see, you can say, oh, take some of my business cards. You have to program what do they need to do. They had to wait till someone commented. Means I probably have an interest. And that was very good. That was very good. And then I'd say, no, I have my card. These 3 for the next 3 people who tell me how good they were programmed. So they were programmed. So that was then you gotta, we all meet people who have expertise we don't have. And there's a Frippicism. Opportunity does not knock once. It knocks all the time. We just don't recognize the sound. I had business executives sitting in my chair, as many as 10 and 12 a day for 15 years. These were movers and shakers. Some of the clients we read about in the Wall Street Journal, now some were up and coming stockbrokers, but all professions. But it was, and I used to say, well, you're an expert in PR. If you had a small business like mine, how do you promote it? I ask questions. It was just, I asked questions. It was amazing. And then let's move this story along. I heard about learning from Jay about PR. So I hired a PR agent. And then she got courses on PR. How do you do it yourself? But this is to get to some principle for everyone. If you were going to promote yourself, and remember, these were the days before the internet, the best advertising, apart from word of mouth, passing out business cards, was to have the best yellow page ad. And we have the best yellow page ad, which was a picture of me with my short blonde hair, with a big pair of shears over, and one of my friends' curly heads behind me. So you got to get attention. And you don't have to put out all your credentials. You just got to get their attention, where you are and how to call. When you want to promote yourself, to be a shameless self-promoter, you have to start promoting. Now, these days, it's easier because of social media. It's much easier. The disadvantage is everyone in the world is doing it. But you have to start and don't stop. What you do need to do is refocus, revisit, rescript, how you're going to describe what you do. And you have to keep in touch with your customers. And when the best way for shy, modest people who think their work should be enough, well, it should be enough, but it isn't. And when it comes to speaking, yes, a great speech is the best advertising. However, you have to do everything else. So you have the opportunity to deliver the speech so it becomes your best advertising. So it has to be ongoing, consistent, and relentless. You start, you don't stop. You just refocus, revisit. And the biggest lesson, whatever you do, and there are so many options, you can't do it all. And for business people, if you're going to have one platform, it has to be LinkedIn. And when you are in conversations with clients, so for example, and then I am going to shut up and let you ask. If you were to say to me, Patricia, you're one of the 5 speakers we're looking at. Why would you be best for us? I'd probably say, very well, I don't know. However, if you were to ask Dan Maddox, the executive director of the American Payroll Association, he'd tell you for over 30 years we've been hiring speakers. And without a doubt, Patricia Fripp is the best, most versatile, hassle-free, and best investment in any speaker we've ever had. And it's because of her versatility, we have booked her for well over 25 years, every year. So what you do, and you do this at the end of your newsletters, you do it at the end of your web posts, you put quotes of what other people say about you. And when people give you a quote, don't take it and put it on your website as it is. And I'd say, if you want to give me a referral, that would be great. Or just tell me, what was the experience? What were your expectations? What did I deliver? What are the results? And I say, don't spell check it. I'll clean it up and send it to you before I post it. Because someone says your presentation was great. Well, when you rewrite it, you say, your keynote presentation to our 800-person audience on presentation skills, was very well received, in fact. So what you want to do is you want to put the context of the quote to promote it. One for keywords, but if someone's searching keynote speaker on presentation skills, there's more chance it will come up. So don't take just what they give you. Ask the permission, can I clean it up so it'd be more useful? Now I zip it. Zip, zip, zip.
Well, I'm so grateful for these timeless lessons that you've shared with us from your dad, from Jay, from others, because the truth is that when we come from a mindset, as you said, that we are the kind of person that people want to do business with, that they trust, the consistency that comes with quality work over time, not necessarily being the best in the industry, being consistent, right? Again, that builds trust and credibility. And the mindset also that everybody's of value. So in terms of who you promote yourself to, be mindful that, whoever you're speaking with, when you have a genuine connection, when they truly believe in you and trust you, that it'll get into the right ears, if you will. Now, My question for you is what specific advice would you give for individuals who are working within an organization about how to promote themselves and be seen and valued?
Good. Well, first of all, you look, act, and speak for the job you want, not the one you have. And as we are getting back and more people are going to the office, one of the exercises I have at the payroll group, when I do seminars on how do you promote yourself and your ideas, the exercise is, all right, you get in the elevator on the second floor, and someone important like the president or maybe one of the board of directors, but some important person in your organization, they don't know you. And you're going to the 14th floor. So you are from the second and the 14th floor to say something that they're going to remember. What do you say? And it's amazing how I said, well, that's too long. You only have a minute or so. Well, this is what I recommend. You say, excuse me, Mr. Such and Such, or Ms. Such and Such. Or if it's a culture, you say Mary. I know. Now, you have to make it easy for people. So I might say, Verid, you don't know me, but I am a dedicated, I'm one of them. Oh, how about, Verid, you don't know me. However, I have the privilege of working with your 6-person dedicated payroll team. And we all talked about how impressive your remarks were at the all hands meeting. In other words, you talk about them. You let them know we haven't met. You don't have to pretend you know me. Do you realize how many people come up? Oh, remember I was in your audience 6 years ago. You told me you loved my blue dress. They remember. Well, yeah, you still have the dress. It's so one. It's make it easy for people. So not only say let them know we haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, or you might say, I was in the 6th row of your audience when, or your remarks, I read online your remarks you made at such and such a conference, because a lot of their speeches are put online. So you talk about them, but you make, that's what I call a cameo appearance. Consider a cameo appearance. How about if you have an employee cafeteria? Who knew? You might be pushing your tray next to the chief financial officer. What do you say that would be memorable? When you walk down a hall, do you smile and just nod at other people? And here is, if you work in a company, this is the best advice, and it comes from one of my friends who's no longer with us, an NSA member, David Palmer. And he was a management consultant. And for fun, he taught MBA courses. For fun. Because he said they are the best audiences. They all work with high pressure companies. They are busy people and they choose to invest in their own education because it takes a lot of time to get an MBA. And one of his techniques was a lunch a week is all I ask. And his point was, you want to be well known in your team and perhaps your division. But if you're going to advance, you've got to be known by other people in other parts of the company. So he said, you want to have lunch once a week in the employee cafeteria. It could be outside, but if you got one, it doesn't have to be fancy. with other people. They can be your rank, they can even be higher rank, they can be lower rank in another part. And you call them up and say, can we make a date the week for an informal lunch? My only agenda is to get to know you and what you do in the marketing department, and perhaps how we could help you in the payroll department. So no pressure, just getting to know you. And I went to hear him speak, and there was a break. And we were standing outside the door. And as we were talking, a young man came by and said, excuse me, Dr. Palmer, I was in your class last year, and you told us once a week, a lunch a week is all I ask. And it took me 6 weeks to get going. But after 3 lunches, I was invited to be part of a cross-functional, highly visible team. It would never have happened if I hadn't reached out for someone I didn't know to have lunch with them. You might say that's not being shameless, that's being nice. Yeah. Expands the visibility of who you are. And you're interested in other people. Now, here's another one. Long before the internet, and people can't believe how we built good speaking business before YouTube, before LinkedIn, before we even had laptops to take on the plane. Susan Rowan, who is the best-selling author of How to Work a Room, one of my buddies, we were members of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And when you belong, they would give you the list of conventions coming to San Francisco. And in those days, we would write letters to people coming. Would you like to book a national speaker, no expenses? That's how I got Dan Maddox, by sending a letter. First booked me in 1987, and now I'm working every year. And I write speeches for the industry speakers. I do a lot more than speak. It's now a big project. And Susan and I would volunteer at their events. And it wasn't for, oh, I'm not introducing the mayor or the guest speaker or the entertainment. We would welcome people. We'd sell raffle tickets. We would do what might be perceived as not glamorous jobs. But if you're welcoming people, if you are selling raffle tickets, what are you doing? Of course, you look dressed, and I'm known for my hats. So, I mean, not only would we look like movie stars, we would say, excuse me, would you like to buy a raffle ticket? You've got a reason to go up and meet people. Hi, I'm Patricia Fripp, speaker for all reasons, an enthusiastic member of the chamber or the convention of Visitors Bureau, just like you. This is for a great cause, and look what you could win. Is that shameless? It's taking advantage of your personality. It's taking advantage of the situation you're in, and you are becoming the type of person that the chamber or the Convention of Visitors Bureau or whatever organization it is, because they said, Patricia, we can only recommend speakers who are members of the Convention Visitors Bureau. But how many of the speakers who send their money in are willing to sell raffle tickets? If you have 3 people you could recommend, I think it might be the person who'd sell the raffle tickets for you, who is also gets rave reviews, compared to someone, yeah, we get good feedback, but they never volunteer to do anything.
So these are amazing examples because they really demonstrate how important it is to be of a giving nature, to be strategic, to build rapport, and to express what it is that you can do to help people, right? Again, it goes back to being of service. So you mentioned personality. What about people who, see themselves as more introverted? They don't feel comfortable to talk about themselves, even to their family, let alone to strangers. What do we do about that?
Slap them. Slap them into reality. Send them a care package. Look, some of this David Palmer was an introvert. I told you. The difference is for an intro, if you go to NSA and there are lots of people and there's so much energy, for an introvert, they can show themselves well. They can meet the occasion. It just takes them longer to recover than someone who might be outgoing. It doesn't mean my brother is an internationally acclaimed guitarist. He's an introvert. He's quiet. He'd rather sit in his garden and read. but when you step up, you step up. Now here, well, and to be realistic, you think big and start small. In the payroll industry, it is a lot more complex to be in payroll than most people realize. And it's one of the few jobs that has to be 100% perfect. And you don't get any feedback on paying people correctly. You only hear if they think you've I got a problem, you took out child support, I don't have any children. Right? And a lot of my friends in that industry, they admit, and as I am coaching them to present their Woman of the Year speech, a big acclaim to 2,000 people, many of them admit when I first went to my chapter meeting, I was too shy to say hello. But what you do in a case like this, if you are shy and modest, you volunteer to register people or be a greeter. So it's very simple. Buried. Okay. Can you fill out your name tag? The food's over there and that's it. And my name's Patricia. If you have any problems, you put yourself in what might not be complex situation, but you have to talk to people. And so many of the people that were on the main stage getting big fancy awards, they did that. Now here is, you always practice on safe people. You practice on safe people. For my Thrive presentation, the winter workshop, I practiced on 3 or 4 different groups in Zoom. And I made changes based on every one. You practice on safe people. Well, it's the same with building your confidence. Now, I have, believe it or not, shy clients. Very much like you described. And this is what I tell them. If you work in a company, you look at the agenda for the meeting and you think, well, if I had the opportunity to contribute on that subject, what would I say? So you prepare remarks based on the agenda that you probably are not going to deliver. But what would you say if you had a contribution? And then when you have a contribution, you have the opportunity, even if you didn't write something you could add this time, or you did, but they asked you a question not on your sheet, the fact that you prepared, you'll be able to answer. And with my corporate clients, for every planned presentation you give in corporate America, you probably have 20 unscheduled, unplanned opportunities to speak. I teach my clients you have to be perpetually prepared. So let us imagine, Vered, you worked in a company and you're a shy, modest person who does superb work in the accounting department, maybe the marketing, but I doubt it if you were that shy, perhaps the payroll department, whatever. And suddenly the boss says, well, we're running 10 minutes ahead of schedule. Vered, I didn't know you were going to be here, but why don't you give us an update on your latest project with the marketing department? And if you're in Zoom, you got 4 seconds to get yourself together. If you're in person, you have from the third to the first row to walk up. And this is the first lesson in being perpetually prepared. You always have something to say while you think of what you're going to say. And I suggest that remark is, thank you for the opportunity to update you on our latest project with the marketing department, or the marketing department's latest project. So you're restating, it's focusing your mind and the audience on the topic. It is the update. Then you also have a framework in your back pocket. The framework is put whatever you're going to say into historical context. So you'll say, you will remember in January, our leadership challenged us to. In March, at the town hall, you heard we'd made this progress. In our May report, you heard this. And now we're in August, you will be excited to know. What would they be excited to know? Our greatest success has been, our biggest challenge was, and this is how we did what we did to get around it. And as we move forward to the next stage, we look forward to your support. And perhaps in the next fiscal year, we could have budget to add one more person to the team. Again, thank you for the opportunity to update you, and on behalf of the brilliant and dedicated 8-person marketing team, you can feel confident that we enthusiastically embrace.
Wow.
Now, you understand that is also a format that works when you do prepare. However, if you have it in, and this is where the rehearsal and the preparation for the presentations of the comments you don't make, you have it in the back pocket. And a very important part, get comfortable with silence. Because if this is a fairly impromptu, or we told you had 2 minutes, you can take 10, you need to think what comes next. And silence is a very powerful tool for a speaker or the person speaking. One, in a pause, you have time to think and breathe. And your breath gives you the energy to keep going, especially if you have a 3-day seminar to deliver. And more important, if you don't fill the silence with the it gives the audience time to think. And even if they are not speaking to you, you are having a duologue, it's just in their thoughts. Oh, this sounds good. Really? We could do that in our team. You see, all this buy-in and remembering what you're saying comes in the pauses. So if you know what you're saying, still build in the pauses. If you're put on the spot, as it were, be comfortable with the silence, because they do know, wow, let's see what she says. She didn't know she'd be on the program. And this is a cameo appearance. Do you know Verin was called on in our team meeting and she was magnificent? You see, is it shameless self-promoting? It's a matter of always being prepared for occasions that you can shine and be prepared when you don't.
Mhm.
And I go to a nice little church, Seventh Avenue Presbyterian Church, and I always make a point. I always go. Our minister speaks once a month, and so we have three different people, which is great variety. And we have a great music director, and the choir is marvelous, and we have different musicians that play in. We're probably doing it for nothing, volunteer. I always make a point to go up and thank people for their contributions, or tell people, "Oh, you read the volunteers that read different scriptures, or oh, your reading was fabulous, your voice was incredible." Just get in the habit of thanking other people, which means when you have your opportunity, they will be encouraging you.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you. So much of this is, as you said, the preparation. First of all, being good at what you do, doing your best, right? Of course, to add value, and getting ahead of the moment when the opportunity shows up to promote yourself, to promote your team, your product or service, whatever that might be. And one last question for you, Patricia, before we complete here, if we have a couple more moments. And that is about what about the opportunities where it is expected for you to directly sell? So let's say you are a business person, a salesperson, an owner of a company, and you want to sell. And there is an aspect of you need to make an impact, right? You need to be memorable and for somebody to choose you over your competitor. What tips do you have for shameless self-promotion?
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Let me give you a specific example.
thank you.
One of my Fripp VT members, because we have monthly, you know, their group coaching sessions. We always begin with, "What's the problem?" or "What's the question you have?" And one gentleman in corporate America, and for whatever reason, he got laid off, and had nothing to do with him. It's just the way business is. And he accepted a job that was lower than the role he had with a very good company. So chances are he's got a job for life. And he said, internally, I keep going for jobs which would be a promotion, and I don't get them. But these are jobs I did before I accepted this one. And I said, "Okay, well, come in the class, come in the group, and tell me what questions they ask. I'll ask them, and we'll see how you answer them." And it wasn't very good. And I say, "Look, so let's take the question. Tell us about what you've done with the job you have. Tell us what you've done, or tell us about, the successes." And this is where your modest friends that I want to slap into reality. Remember the Dan Maddox example. I don't know if I'm the best speaker for you, but talk to one of my clients. So this is what we had in practice. Tell us about a success. Well, if you were to talk to my last manager, he would tell you, "John was superb, da 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 da." If you would talk to my co-workers, they would tell you. And if you would talk to our clients, such as such and such. So what you're doing is you're looking at how you did your job from what would your manager say, what would your co-workers say, and what would the client say. That's the best way to toot your own horn, because remember, if you don't toot your own horn, there is no music. You do it through the words of other people. That's why when you send out a proposal, which I just did before we talked, they're all the quotes from people who think I walk on water, who sent them to me, that might be in industries or type of companies like this. It's an analytical group. So we put our tech companies. It also is for people who have to sell and they're not really salespeople. So how did you get a return on investment from other people? So you do the same in your proposals.
Wow. Amazing advice, and aligns with what we know in terms of research on principles of influence, so Dr. Robert Cialdini's principles of influence, of, for example, authority, social proof, and so on. Patricia, you are just a wealth of expertise and incredible stories and experiences and a whole lot of love. How can people learn more about Fripp VT and all the wonderful presentations and offerings that you share?
Well, if you go to Fripp, FRIPP.com, you can top right, sign up for free resources. I have so many special reports about sales and presenting. You want to click, look along Fripp VT, as in virtual training, click on, take a free trial. Sign up for my newsletter, all on fripp.com. I have over 1,000 blog posts. So if you go and blog and persuasive presentations, stories, sales, whatever it is, you'll come up with multiple articles about the subject. You can go to me on YouTube, Fripp, YouTube/Patricia Fripp. I am not hiding. Connect on LinkedIn. I heard you on Verit Show. I want to be a shameless self promoter. And I'll say, yes, I'll accept you.
Well, thank you so much for your willingness to be here on the show, to flow along with this topic, and really giving from your heart for our listeners, and what you sense is what they need to hear, all through story. Really, the extraordinary speaker that you are is shining through our conversation. So once again, thank you. And I wish you all the best in your world and your continued adventures.
Life is one big adventure.
That it is. Thank you so much, Patricia.
Hey, game changers. I am so excited that you got to hear from Patricia Fripp about shameless self-promotion. It is so important, especially these days as things get more and more competitive, to learn how to promote yourself, how to realize that promoting what you do, how you can help, is really of service to other people, and it's actually not at all about ourselves. And if you want to learn even more on this topic, I invite you to check out episode 34 with Connie Kadansky. It's one of our first podcast episodes. It's a really good one. It's actually about sales call reluctance, which is in a way like how to promote yourself when you're making cold calls, when you're making sales calls. The essence of that conversation, it goes beyond sales calls. It's really about the mindset of promoting yourself, how to have that confidence when you speak, and also some great tips on how to do that successfully. So thanks again for being a member of our community. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. If you have any ideas for how we can share more topics, anything that's of interest for you, please share a message and let us know. And if you haven't already, download the Momentum Institute app. There's some goodies in there that I hope will be really helpful to you. So all my love. Bye for now.